And what up? I don't know how my... Actually, you know, I know exactly why my headphones keep coming on. During breaks, I have been leaving my microphone on when I play music. But I want to listen to the music, so I just put my headphones on. I'm like, oh, I love my music. It's so great. Excellent. In daily number 548, which is today's daily, we're in part 3, and we've been looking at the Widow Mine's use. In part 1, primarily in the opening. In part 2, we looked at not a long span of time, actually just around 6 minutes, about how the maneuvering and positioning of this army is being useful to us. We saw some basic defensive maneuvers, utilizing the emergency thrusters to allow us to poach forward with just marauder groups. And as long as we're not poaching too far away, we can always just lift up, boost back home, and be safe. So we don't actually have to stay as holed up in our main base as we would ordinarily. And we also got to see some cool defensive mine usage in that spot. We even got to see this attack where we got some offensive positioning. Most builds kind of have the themes that we've seen here. They have, here's what I'm doing with my exact opening with my buildings. And then part 2 is, okay, there's 3 attacks he can do, and as long as I can hold off those 3, then I'm going to do my 1 attack. That's like the segment that we saw in part 2, happening right now. And then part 3 is, now I kind of have to just judge what's going on and make good decisions. And that is what we're going to be looking at now. As we end up stepping back into the game, we're going to be going to the BeastyQT cam with the sound on. There we go. But as we noted, Mutilisks are ridiculously super stupid scary. I like this choice from BeastyQT to not get too overeager and try to drill too far into the base. Sure, this is a target right here, but it is not as essential as this base was to kill off. You're starting to see why I'm leaning a little bit away from going for the 4 barracks with the tech lab. Why I prefer 2, maybe 3. Just because if our opponent goes Mutilisk, we just don't have a lot of value that emerges from that. So we see Beasty doing a reasoned play. Setting up retreat path Widow Mines. This is how I would define a player as being cautious. Gonna burrow Widow Mines and then attack over them and start to step forward and retreat should need be. I honestly would like the Marauders to retreat too. There's no reason why we should abandon them with their families at home. Obviously, any connection that we make with the Widow Mines is going to be excellent. But again, these Widow Mines function best in this reinforcement situation where we can blast once and then hang a little bit and then move in and get another successful blast. But this is, I think, one of these danger zones, where we don't want to get too overeager just hitting that B button for the afterburners. Sure, it feels nice to load up and then afterburn away from banelings, but what you really need to be afterburning away from is Mutilisks. We've seen 2 times this game where just a mistiming on the retreat of those afterburners nearly lost us our medivacs. If those Mutilisks had been slightly more swift, we would have lost at least 4 of those medivacs. So having that sort of conservativeness. We're also going to see where Widow Mines become Gambletown. We so badly want the Widow Mine to do that every time, don't we? We so badly, desperately freaking need in our souls. We pray that every Widow Mine is this Widow Mine, and that every Widow Mine is that Widow Mine. We pray that that is the case. I am not a huge believer in those kinds of Widow Mines. As much as I am totally focusing on how good that feels to watch from a spectator standpoint, I don't believe in it. And here's why. At this point in time, a lot of players are just running headlong into wicked amounts of mineage. It's bad, right? You get on the ladder, and I've had many games occur in the following fashion. I'm playing on my Smurf account, so people are more than content to say fucking terrible things to me. And I've had this happen many a time where I'm like, well, it's around 9:30. I haven't scouted him in a while, but he was delaying his third. He could be going Mutile, so let me just burrow 2-3 Widow Mines to the back of my base. The Mutapack comes in, and all the Widow Mines and he instantly loses Mutapack and says, fucking cheap lucky noob, and then he leaves the game. And I'm like, oh, I'm a level 18 Terran now. And that phase is gonna go. It's just gonna disappear. The best counter to Widow Mines that we've seen consistently used in the limited number of pro matches, or at least limited number of pro matches I've seen, is an Overlord. Overlord's so good. A single Zergling marching forward is generally going to completely deny these types of mines. I mean, imagine if Beastie burrowed this one, and then, you know, the Overseer flew in, it shot the Overseer, and then this died, and then this mine died, and then that mine died. I mean, right now, there's 9 mines out. That's 25% of his mines just gone in a second. Like, you just don't want that sort of loss confronting you. So this, I think, is a smart scan, but I'll come back to it in a second. So yeah, I don't think that these will be so effective. I do think that what will be effective are I'll actually re-show it. I do think that mines that are sort of like the bait type of mines will be quite effective. Will be very, very effective. So things like this, where we rush up to hit the Mutilisks and quickly burrow mines to be able to kill off lanes. I do think those will be quite effective. But these sort of like cross my fingers and pray, nah. Now, in terms of just general judgment, okay, we've had some skirmishes, so a scan to see if he's going for Hive, I think, is almost certainly necessary at a point like this. The faster he techs to Hive, the more willing we are to be aggressive. If he was teching to Hive, I would see no problem with starting to really engage. I just don't believe in these luck mines. I don't think that this will be a thing. Occasionally this will happen, but I'm not going to like base my life around it. Yeah, the faster he's teching to Hive, the more willing we are to move out to attack. The longer he's taking to go to Hive, the more we want to just sort of chill back and make sure that we don't die to a bunch of Mutalisks. Which is extremely, extremely possible. Did that Widow Mine get another kill? Oh, no way. Oh, no way. Really? Okay, never mind. Alright, that's fine. But I think in this late game period, we're seeing the effectiveness of the Widow Mine as a defensive tool, and also the necessity of having the Widow Mines as a defensive tool against a large number of Mutalisks. If you scan and you see no Hive, oh, he's still going Mutalisk. Burrow the mines back here. De-emphasize mines at the front, because it's not like you desperately need a ton of mines. BeastyQT builds a lot of medivacs, which might seem overkill, but over time we're seeing more and more that, you know, the Marine King Prime-esque 10 to 12 medivacs actually works pretty darn well. Yet again, we can do a similar move. We identify where's the Mutalisk ball. It is up here. Build the Widow Mines, because that, or burrow the Widow Mines to create a wall between the threat, these Mutalisks, and the remainder of our forces. These are kind of serving a double purpose. These Widow Mines are also protecting against the Baneling and this. And this. Oh! All that XP. And all the XP, and the XP Rangers. Get him, XP. Yeah. Now, as amazing as that was, it's not just a simple, clean, and easy, oh my god, I dominated him. That sounds way loud on my end. Every single daily, I like drop my master volume a little bit more. But it's not a guarantee by any means, because Zerg have been doing this with Banelings for years.
Upgrade complete. Your forces.
All that would have been more useful if the medivacs had been participating in the fight. But still, we have some similar principles. Widow mines at the back are definitely going to be a necessary part of the defense because we've identified that there's really no layer. There's really no hive at this point in time. Speed things up a bit because this game ends in a pretty straightforward fashion. The usual sort of nice back and forth maneuvering that we've been talking about throughout. We're starting to see yet again a more defensive role for the mines. Fields of mines defensively, lines of mines offensively is tending to be a pretty common thing. And this is the usual look of Ling, Muta, Baneling. Once Terran gets to 3-3, and if the game's happening properly, a Zerg who's going for Mutiling will get 2-2 faster and 3-3 slower because he does not have the hive up for very long. And this last little moment, I think, was kind of interesting for me to see. And also throughout this BeastyQT versus Xigua show match, that counterattacking is surprisingly effective against this sort of Widow mining player. What Widow mines seem best suited for is some interaction with the main army. Like, here's these counterattacks coming in from BeastyQT, presumably from Watermelon, our Zerg player. And sure, a couple mines could be burrowed here, but a single Zergling can just set that off. Small counterattack, we can't expect our mines to be everywhere. These small counterattacks actually give BeastyQT quite a headache. Now, Beasty, what is going to permit him to win this game? Well, the thing that's definitely going to help him is that he's correctly identifying where are the bases. Where are the bases that are new? Let me just shut down this, keep that. It's probably almost mined out. And then we're identifying, oh, well, the big threatening armies are here, the big threatening armies are here. We're not seeing any Mutilisks anymore. So BeastyQT does what any reasonable human being would do. Most of the armies in my base. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to hold on strong. Just no drop is made.
Base is under attack.
Yeah. And here, 2 Zerglings will destroy a command center. A nice pickup. These are going to wrap up pretty expectedly. And shortly hereafter, Watermelon, our favorite Zerg player who has a barcode, will have to type out defeat and cry bitterly. All the XP, different XP. Dat yawn. Dat yawn. Alright. You guys, I think it's time for some questions. Let's take them. In tomorrow's daily, I think what we'll end up doing is an encore of this composition, this style from BeastyQT, except, what's a very reasonable question? Well, I know because I've seen it in the chat so much. What if our opponent goes Ling Infestor? Because I heard that Infestors were Imba, because I went on the internet. We'll certainly examine that tomorrow in another game from this series. I don't know about any of you other fellas that grow right here, grow the man hair right on the mustache line. Oh, it feels so good to wiggle. Oh yeah, that's the greatest. Question from Alaron. When Terran gains map control and clumps up his Widow Mines, can't the Zerg move out and send a Zergling down each path, find where the Widow Mines are, and just push according to the path the Zerglings clear out? If they're clumped up, can't the Zerg just bait out a bunch of mines with a few Zerglings? Yes. In fact, yeah. This is one of the reasons why I kind of said this, but then glossed by it pretty fast. Widow Mines do not work amazingly as this path blocker. In Brood War, mines did function that way, where you would throw down like 8 spider mines, and you'd be like, all right, he's not going to go down that path, and if he does, he's just going to lose a bunch of stuff. Here, the Widow Mine costs a lot more. It's really expensive, has that incredibly long cooldown time. So just kind of burrowing some out in the middle of nowhere is just a recipe for disaster. You need an army to back up your Widow Mines, and your Widow Mines are used in a way to reinforce your army. They seem like a nice complement support unit and less of a space control unit. They also have some focus as defense. This is why I have noted that the best response to the Widow Mine has appeared to be the Speed Overlord. Because let's pretend these Widow Mines are reinforcing the Marine Marauder Medivac army quite nicely, and there's a good position and you want to hit it. You can't send a Zergling in because the Marines will just shoot it down. So what do? You just send in the Overlord leads. You'll go down in supply a bit, or supply cap a bit, but then you're going to lose most of your army in that engagement, where hopefully he will go down more in supply than you did. This is what we're seeing a lot. And again, in this series, this Xigua versus BeastyQT series, Xigua does a great job of using the Overlords to do so in some of the other games. Again, youtube.com/HuskyStarcraft. He casted the full best of 5. Check it out there. F5 in the question grabber. Oh my gosh. I'm feeling quite tired. We've been seeing this question a lot in chat. I'm totally gonna go for it. But I'm gonna credit Metal X Storm X for being the one to ask it. He says, how do you think the Widow Mine will affect TVP, if at all? Ooh, and Awesome with Bacon also noted that the Protoss units generally have higher health. This is one thing that I like quite a bit about the Widow Mines against TOS, is it's basically like the, I hate that unit, he's dead, and you kill that one unit off. Oh, it feels so good. I honestly think that it will wind up, on one sense, it will wind up being quite similar to how it's been working against Zerg. You don't want to send the Widow Mines out and convince yourself that their sole goal is to defend movement paths and to lock down all those areas. Like, they won't really... they'll work primarily best as a complementary unit in an army. Oh, thank goodness I have my mines here, because I can run away from this Zealot Archon army knowing that all his Zealots will then eat these Widow Mines. In the same way we saw the Marine Marauder retreat and the Zergling Baneling got eaten up by Widow Mines. I do think, however, it will, in the early game, and the early game alone, I think that in the early game, the Widow Mines will be a useful way to sort of restrict movement along paths. It will force the opponent to get those extra observers up, and as long as the army is nearby, you can run your troops up to defend if 2 stalkers end up shooting away at it. I'm going to take one more question because for some reason my yawns are becoming epically frequent. From Moo I'm a Goat, and also from Astro Penguin, they both ask a similar question. Any opinion on some sort of Widow Mine worker harass? Or do you think Widow Mines can be used like Reavers? I would like to again return back to this definitive graph of how TVZ works, uncontested in all the world. Most of all the goody goodness in terms of attack timings don't come from this theorized, wouldn't it be rad if this happened? Wouldn't it be rad if a mine killed off a whole bunch of workers? It happens because you have located periods of weakness. They have now been circled in red. Zerg powering, where Zerg is building drones. Infestors, but no hive tech. These are the vulnerable spots. So that's why I liked this attack timing that sliced right in here, and the other attack timing that slices right in here. These are the two times. So that's how I would sort of frame it. I don't mind the concept, but the more important question is, if you are doing some sort of widow mine worker harass, how does that plug into an attack that either hits around 10 minutes or hits around 14 minutes? If there is a way to connect to one of those two, then my god, I think it's great. If you're just dropping in there and going, oh shit, I hope I kill workers, because if I don't, I'm fucked. If that's what's going on in your head, then I would say redact the strats. Tomorrow we're going to be doing an encore of this Widow Mine Marine Marauder medivac mix against a more canonical Ling Infestor Ultralisk mixture. And we'll see that the Widow Mines take a back seat to the awesomeness of the afterburners, the speed medivac, the emergency thrusters, whatever they're going to call it. We'll see a lot more of that tomorrow. Here comes the hand. Where's it going? I blew right over my hand. Hold on. There we go. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful Tuesday today.